Hey everybody, Dave Clark, aka the Pattern Guy here again. Welcome to another Chalk Talk. Today, like I said in a previous video, I was going to get some custom cylinders in for Banning Locomotive Works. Okay, so we got that. We're getting that job going. First thing I found, just rummaging around, I found this old pattern. I built this actually in aero aluminum when I was there. Okay. And the reason I brought it out, I'm bringing it up again today. Last video we made a ingot mold. Okay, so I showed we made a block and I showed how to wrap the block. Okay, so I did the same thing with this pattern. Generally, we do that for master pattern. If you're just making a pattern that's going to run like a wood pattern, you're just going to do a few. We wouldn't make it a box, you know. This would just be a big chunk of wood, solid wood. And then on the Copath, we would hollow the bottom out here, or either drag half maybe, whatever way you'd mold it, okay? So basically, you know, I did the same thing here. I had a block, okay, I forget what the wall thickness is. The wall thickness isn't that thick on this thing. It's only about 1/8 of an inch. All right, so I made a block that was the interior size of this, and I just wrapped it with, you know, 8 or 3/16 material, whatever this was, okay? And this particular part right here is a core. Like I said, generally I paint my patterns red and the core prints black, but this, I didn't do that because it's mastered. This went to a match plate shop. This was made in aluminum because it was fairly high production. So I just thought it was kind of interesting. Another interesting thing too was back in the day, you know, we had one CNC mill there in the mold shop, and it didn't have a lettering program on it. There was no such thing back then, right? So what the company did for GM Motorsports here, what they did, they sent us the lettering, okay, and then what I did was we got a copy of it, and I glued the letters onto the Ren board that I showed in the one video. Like I said, that mills real nice on the milling machine. Literally went over to the milling machine and milled this out by hand. Just, you know, it took quite a while to do it, but you know, that's how we got those raised letters on there. I milled that out by hand, believe it or not. So back in the day, I was back in the days, man. This is quite a long time ago. Bring back some nostalgic memories here. So anyhow, what happened is I do a lot of work for Banning Locomotive Works, okay? And I've been working with Jesse for, I don't know, about 8 or 10 years here. Okay, I'm getting into trains. I said in the beginning, I'm still hurting too, guys. So in the my intro video, I said that I'm getting into you know, there's a train club 5 miles up the road here, so I joined that, and I've been getting in there. My knowledge of what trains are what and that, or, you know, I'm getting there, okay? So anyhow, Jesse had a gentleman write him. He started a locomotive like 30 years ago, and he's getting to the point where, you know, he's retired, he wants to finish it. And it's a CNW Class D Atlantic locomotive. Okay, so they don't have the cylinders for them, and for the guys that, you know, aren't into trains, okay, this is a half of a cylinder right here. Okay, now these, it's the old steam trains, and like I said, guys that know, bear with me. What these were, for the guys that don't know, is, you know, the old steam locomotives, how they had the pistons on the side, and they, you know, they go back and forth and move the wheels, right? So that's what these are, okay? So there'd be one on each side. A lot of the companies that supply castings for cylinders and that, they actually come in 3 or 4 pieces, you know, a lot, usually, not all the time. This one I think is 3-piece. It's a cylinder one side, a cylinder the other side, and what's called the saddle in the middle, and that's where the big, tank sits on, and then the smokestack will be up on top of that too, okay? So this originally was like a, this is a 3-piece. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a 1-piece cylinder saddle combination, okay? And the reason I'm doing this is when this is going to save a lot of machining. The gentleman doesn't have a milling machine, so what I'm going to be able to do as a pattern maker, and this is where I'm trying to teach you guys, okay? Teach you pattern making, and hopefully, pattern making, it's a lot of logic also, and then like I said, math. There's a little bit of physics in there, things like that. All right, so I want to try to get you into tune where, you could look at something and maybe improve upon it, make it a little better, or, whatever. That's one of my strengths, it's not everybody's, but one of my strengths, I can look at something and usually figure a different way or a better way to do it or whatever. So with this, like I said, typically there are 3 pieces. So Jesse knows that, I know a little bit about the locomotives and that, and I'm a fairly good pattern maker. So he basically, what he did was, this is a cylinder to a different locomotive, but what they're going to do is the whole insides to this is going to be the same as the cylinders he wants, okay? So typically too, these are standing straight up and down. This locomotive, they're actually tilting them on an angle, okay? So what I gotta do is I'm laying this out right now. I'm not gonna show you how I'm laying everything out. I'll show you when it's all done, because it's going to take me quite a few hours to lay this out. So what I have to do is I got to figure out how to twist these in at an angle, reconfigure the saddle in between, and then I'm going to have to make a bunch of cores that goes in there, okay? So, and that's going to alleviate, like, right here, this would be machined, and they drill holes in there for the steam to go in and the exhaust to come out and that. So in doing it with the 3 pieces, you got to make sure that when you drill the holes here in this cylinder, they got to line up with the holes in the saddle. And if they don't, you got to have like a 3/8 steam inlet. And if it's, if you got 3/8 steam inlet hole, let's say here, this is the side, so we got the exhaust here that's usually bigger. You got steam inlet here and a steam inlet here, okay? So say this is this face right here. So mirror image, you're gonna have that on the saddle, okay? So just say I drill the holes on the saddle. Say this is like 1 inch from here to the edge, okay? So if I drill my hole down here on the saddle, okay, and I'm like 7/8 of an inch, and of course this would be in decimals because we're machining. I'm just doing this, okay? All the machine guys out there, pattern makers don't have it because we do 16ths, okay? So yeah, what's going to happen is you have this this hole right here, okay, and these are gauged to have so much steam coming in that hole, okay? Otherwise, this thing's it's not going to work, all right? So if I'm off a little bit, say, my saddle hole's over here, right? See, this is a hole. So my saddle hole's over here. I only have, like, instead of a 3/8 hole, I got like a 1/4 inch hole that steam's gonna, not enough steam's gonna go through, okay? So the way I like to do it, I like to do it in 1 piece. That way, this will look something just real quick, okay? Now let's get rid of all this stuff here. All right, like I said, I'm not the best artist, but here we'll try to you know, and this is just basic. I'm gonna have everybody screaming at me on the things. The steam train guys are gonna kill me for not explaining things right and that. Okay, so we have the steam. These are the cylinders, okay, and then here's the saddle. Okay, and this will come up something like this. Like I said, it's just, you know. Alright, so what happens is, in here, yeah, this is hollow in here. And then what happens is we got tubes that come out and up. Let's do it that way. Okay. They go in and out of the cylinder. Okay, so that's like your steam inlet and your exhaust, okay, and then, you know, the steam comes in, pushes the cylinder, and then in the middle is the exhaust, right? But what I'm saying is here, kind of like I said, let's try this. Okay, so there's the edge of my saddle. Let's do the cylinder like this, okay? That's kind of like what this will look like. All right, so say I got my exhaust hole here and I drill it off up here. I'm going to be off a little bit, you know, so in doing, you know, if I get rid of this and then I just core this, I'm where I gotta be, you know, so that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do with this project, okay? So the thing with this project, getting to the lesson finally after 10 minutes, I told you I ramble, okay? So getting into what we're doing here is, in this chalk talk, is I have 2 drawings and a casting to work from, okay? And this is the way it's going to be as a pattern maker sometimes. And this is where I say, you know, you got to learn, pay attention, learn drawing, learn math, and yeah, physics didn't get into this too much, but it's you learn that stuff, start thinking logically, and then you can it's easier for you to translate, you know, the different media kind of things, I guess you would say, when you got to do this. And it's so important. I'll say this time and time again. This trade is hard for people that don't do this trade. This trade is unbelievably easy to paint yourself in a corner, okay? And so you always got to think a couple steps ahead in that, and it's you know, if you're not thinking what you're going to do a couple steps down the road, you're machining something, it's like, I don't have a flat surface to rest on to sand or cut or something, and you got to get another piece of wood out and redo things. Okay, so when you're doing, the problem in like making a pattern right off of a casting without a drawing is this outside, there's not too much to measure. Okay, inside there's a lot to measure. You're not going to be able to see the inside. Plus I got it plugged up, and I'll tell you why I got it plugged up in a minute. But you kind of have to have, let's do another thing here. Back in the day in one of my drawing classes, actually as a engineer from Ford, when I was going through my apprenticeship, the guy was an engineer from Ford. He's working with my dad at the time, and he came up with this drawing to teach us how to do, you know, there's several different kinds of drawings. There's CAD now, which is a huge thing, but there's one that's called Datum Line dimensioning, okay? And I think that's, if you can figure a way out to do it off a casting, it's kind of the best way to do it. So I'm not going to be able to do it the way he did it, because it was so cool. But nowadays, with everything that's going around, is he had basically, I'm not going to do it, I'll try to explain it. Okay, so you have what's called your datum line, or it would be like a center line to us, okay? So you have the drawing. Okay, let's do this all the way over here. And say something like is off center here, okay? So basically with datum line dimensioning is they would take all the dimensions off of this one line. So, you know, you'd have to do dimension from here to here, from here to here. And like I said, I made this one off the datum line a little bit. So this dimension would be bigger than this one and that. But the way Tom did it, this engineer, is cool. He actually, he called the drawing dementia, okay, datum line dimensioning. He called it dementia, and it was a very voluptuous woman kind of deal. And, you know, he had her split down the middle, and it was cool the way we'd get in big trouble doing that nowadays, but it was a real neat way to explain it. But if you can, the way when I work off a casting, it's kind of datum line dimensioning, but what you got to do is you got to kind of pick some spot to work off of, okay? You got to work from the same spot all the time, all right? So another thing on this one too is you can see I got these holes plugged, okay? It's just pieces of wood, all right? And what I did, I roughly measured these holes here, kind of took an average, these piece of 1/2 inch thick pine, and then I, you know, cut these out on the bandsaw, sanded them. I made them a little tight so I could pound them in, okay? So the reason I did this is because you can't see it, but I got my center. I'll see if you can. I don't know if I can. I can't lean over here, but I got my center on these. All right, so that's, I got a center to work from here. Okay, so this is what I'm basically using. This as a datum line. Okay, so I can take my dimensions off here. Okay. And then it's going to be more difficult once I get into the inside, but we'll be okay in there. So always try to do this if you can, even if you have a rectangular hole, you can fill the rectangular hole, put a center line in or dimension line or whatever. Try to fill the holes in if you can, because like I said, it's easy. Yeah, if you got a real big casting with like a big rectangular, here's your casting, okay? You got a big hole like this, say it's 2 feet square, you don't have to fit a 2 foot square piece of wood in there, okay? You could just take a little, you know, board, 2x4 or whatever, put it in there and get your line, okay? So I say you gotta think of everything. Think outside the box, do the marine thing, overcome and adapt, okay? Improvise, overcome and adapt. All right, so what I gotta do here, this is exactly what the cylinder is going to look like here minus the saddle. So what I got here, I've got some more, I got another drawing here, okay? So this is the traditional cylinders with the cylinders right on top of each other on the same plane there, okay, 90 degrees. So this is the third part that I get to work off of. Okay, so here's what the gentleman said. This is how he went to cylinders. They're set down on like a 40-degree angle. Okay, so what I gotta do is I gotta lay my new cylinder pattern out using these three, you know, 2 drawings and a casting. Okay, so sometimes that's what you're gonna have to do. All right, and like I said, when you know, just be very careful measuring off a casting. You know, measure from the same spot all the time. You know, it doesn't have to. You don't have to do a datum line. Okay, you can do it from an end. All right, just make sure it's from the end. Okay, now, like I said, we're gonna go over this stuff and over and over. You know, it's hard for me to think of every single thing that, you know, I gotta explain to these all the time. Okay, but there's a couple quick important points I'm gonna point out, and then I'll let you guys go here. Okay, so the most important thing that you got to remember when you're working off of a casting, okay, is the one, the one video I did where we were doing a layout, okay, so we got this is cast iron, okay, so we're gonna do 1/8 inch shrink, all right, so I showed you this is a standard, all right, the 1/8 inch shrink rule is 1/8 inch longer, right? So I'm gonna lay my layout out with a 1/8 shrink rule, okay? And then when I laid or was making that layout, I took my standard scale and I said I'm gonna put that back in my toolbox, right? We can't here, okay? This is already cast, okay? It's cast to size. So you gotta take all your dimensions off of the casting with a standard rule. You use dividers, calipers. You know, you could lay this up, lay a height gauge out if you have a height gauge. You know, that's always a nice thing. A lot of guys, especially starting out, don't have the height gauges. But if you could get a lot of dimensions with height gauges, you know, that's a primo way to do it. But you always got to take and be very, very careful. You know, keep my standard rulers over here and my shrink rules over here. All right, I always try to keep them separate. You know, you don't want to, you know, they're both chrome. Okay, so it's, you know, I'll pick up my shrink rule and measure, get a dimension, go over there. Well, it's going to be bigger again. You're going to double shrink it. You don't want to do that, okay? Because, you know, when they get to machine this, it's going to be twice the machining on there. Plus other dimensions might be out. So don't forget, always standard when you measure, and then when you're laying it out, you use your shrink. All right, now this one, like I said, I'm not going to show you laying this out. This one definitely, this one's so intricate. I gotta have, I'm gonna have 3 views of the layout. I'll show you this on the next video, okay, when I'm done with this. What I'll do with this, more than likely, I've done several of these, and if I remember correctly, what I'll do is I'll make a couple additional layouts, more than likely. And the reason I'm going to do those is so I can actually build some of the core sticks on the layout. That way I know I'm right where I got to be, okay? And real quick, I want to get into another thing, but the core sticks, basically what it is you know, when we were talking with my dad, you know, I said literally, things are easier nowadays, okay? So it's more difficult for me to, I should have brought some core boxes out, but it's literally easier to make a male. You know, I could carve this out or just get chunks, sand them, glue them together, all right, wipe some fillets in, rather than getting a chunk of wood and you got to carve all the holes out and grooves and, you know, channels and all that stuff. Okay, so it's easier just to make the male and pour plastic, which we're going to be doing on these, and I'll show you how we do the plastics too. This is going to be a neat project. I'm not going to make it a series like we did that bandsaw part. I'm just going to do this, you know, here and there. It's kind of hard for, I'm filming by myself today. Hopefully I'm not chopping my head off. What I got to do is, you know, I'm filming, and I got to get the camera to Joe, and he's going to go through and you know, put it on YouTube and that, and then I got to get the camera back to film more and things like that. So it's kind of hard. We're newer at this too. You know, apologize for the last video too. I think we were doing the Japanese movie there. Mouth was moving at a different time the sound was, so sorry about that. We didn't catch that. And another thing too, I'd apologize too for, you know, one of my first videos, if not the first video. One of the things is, you know, I want the correct terminology, and I swear to God I wouldn't watch any of these videos because I hate seeing myself on camera and I hate my voice. So I've been watching them just to see where I can improve. You know, I try to make these videos as good as I can for you guys. You guys got any suggestions, you know, let me know too. I gotta apologize. I have been getting some terminology. I'm not gonna say I know the correct terminology, but like I say, I do this off the top of my head. And I noticed in the last video when I was making the ingot mold, I started saying we were gonna make a ladle, pouring ladle the first couple times. I was in pain. I'm still in pain right now. My mind's still a little, you know, I don't try to make excuses. This is the way it is here. So I'll try to watch my terminologies. And Joe doesn't, like when he's editing them, he doesn't know them. He's not a pattern maker, so he can't correct them. Down the road, if we keep on going and things start getting better, easier for me, I got a little bit more time. I'll try to help him edit, and we'll try to get some better videos out and that. So you're stuck with the crappy ones for now, but hopefully we get the message across, what we need to get across. That's the most important, I think. And like I said, if you guys have, if you guys are working on a project, you know, if you kind of get stuck on something or you're not sure how to go about doing something, you know, just write me. I'll try to email you back as quick as I can. Like I said, I got a couple business going. I got a couple other things going too. But, you know, I'm doing this to help you guys. I really am, okay? And if I don't know something, we'll find somebody else that knows. Believe me, we'll get the question answered. All right, so appreciate you guys watching, hanging in there with me. I'll start building. I know these kind of videos are kind of dull, but like I said, I wanna cover everything as much as I can. Okay, so I promise this Saturday we're gonna make some sawdust. I'll show you how to set up to start making split cylindrical patterns. That's quite a process. You know, we'll show you that. Like I said, we got some neat cores for this one. We'll get back into the cores in this one are all offset, so we're gonna have to come up with some funky partings and things like that. And the core boxes will be pretty unique with this job too. So this one definitely is not a beginner job. You know, this apprentice is not gonna do this job, but you know, you'll hopefully, you know, you're gonna pick up on a lot of things and then see it. So I'll quit rambling here, guys, man. You know, please subscribe. Like I said, I want to keep this thing going. So if you haven't subscribed, I really appreciate it. If you have any more suggestions, you know, put them in for me. Appreciate it. Okay, guys? Have a good one, everybody.